The car right behind the locomotive tonight is the 907. Car 907 was built like the 661 in 1947 by American Car and Foundry, and like the 661 was assigned to the Nancy Hanks tube between Savannah and Atlanta. So these two cars have very similar histories. They're also very similar in construction. They're both aluminum lightweight cars. The biggest difference, number 907 is like 906. It is a Jim Crow car. However, 907 had its wall removed in 1954 when the railroads desegregated. For those of you riding up in car 907, if you look along the line of fluorescent lights right above the window, you can see a gap in the lighting towards the middle of the car where that wall once stood. We have now completed the turning of our train, and we are now pulling down the west leg of the line, and we are now westbound for East Chattanooga. Try not to think about that too hard. It's an east-west railroad. For those of you that I can hear thinking about it, I think I can smell some smoke cooking back here at the 661. Someone's burning the dust off back here. This is an east-west railroad. We are westbound towards Chattanooga, but our station is on the east side of Chattanooga, so East Chattanooga, but we got to go west to get to the east side of Chattanooga. Because we are currently east of Chattanooga, so we got to go west to get to Chattanooga. And never mind. Y'all are making my head hurt. Now, on the left side of our train as we head on out of Grand Junction, if you look closely, you can see a blue and gray car, number 390. That car is another Nancy Hanks car built for the Central Georgia Railway. Number 390 is actually painted in its original Central of Georgia paint, and ultimately one day we do plan to restore the 661 and the 907 to that paint scheme as well. On the morning of their planned raid, April 12th, 2 other men overslept and missed the raid altogether. So 18 soldiers and 2 civilians in this raiding party boarded a northbound passenger train in Marietta, Georgia, behind a steam locomotive named General. They rode this train north to Big Shanty, today Kennesaw, Georgia, which was a breakfast stop for the crew as well as the passengers. The dining place didn't exist in 1862. While the crew and passengers were inside the Lacey Hotel next door to the train stuffing their faces, these Union spies uncoupled the passenger cars, climbed into some freight cars behind the locomotive as well as on the locomotive itself, and they, with a mighty pull of the throttle and without a single shot being fired from nearby Confederate Camp McDonald, which housed 3,000 men, these men illegally borrowed Locomotive General and those 3 freight cars. While we are inside this tunnel, there is only about 10 to 15 inches of clearance on either side of this train. So please do not lean one way or the other too far to the left or right. Now, on September 21st, 1890, there was a steam locomotive and train approaching this tunnel from the Chattanooga side headed for Atlanta. And as this train approached the tunnel, just on the opposite side of the ridge from our current location, due to the sheer incompetence of the engine crew, the incompetence of the engineer and the fireman being very green, this is one of his first trips as a qualified fireman, they let the locomotive's water level in the boiler drop to a insufficient level, and the locomotive's boiler exploded. It killed the engine, the crew, destroyed the locomotive. That was locomotive number 419 on the East Tennessee, Virginia, and Georgia Railroad. That locomotive was only about 3 years old at that time, so it was rebuilt and put back into service. Today, that locomotive, now numbered as 107, can be found on display in downtown Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, where it sits on the parkway dressed up as Dollywood Express, number 107. If you'd like to learn more about that incident than what I've had time to talk about tonight, there's only one video on YouTube about that I've been able to find, and that is another episode of the Historical Heritage Podcast, which is actually episode number 2. Episode 1 is about the great locomotive chase. Episode number 2 is about the explosion of the 419. The interior of this tunnel is lined with stacked limestone brick, clay brick that was made on site in a kiln during construction, and also just the natural carved limestone rock of Missionary Ridge. Now, as we exit from the tunnel, we are in an area of Chattanooga that was highly contested over during the Battle for Missionary Ridge as part of the Chattanooga Campaign in November of 1863. Now, by this point, the city of Chattanooga has fallen to the Union Army. Please watch your step around East Chattanooga here. It is dark. Please stay on the paved pathways. Do not wander off onto the tracks, gravel, or ballast. And also, please do not climb on any equipment here around East Chattanooga. Though it may look like an inviting jungle gym, it's actually a fire hazard if you climb on any of this equipment. And what I mean by that is if you climb on it and you fall off, I'm going to laugh at you and then I'm going to get fired. So again, it's a fire hazard. We'll have 2 exit points on the stairs between cars 1 and 2, and on the ramp between cars 2 and 3. Ladies and gentlemen, we are now coming into East Chattanooga. On our regular Missionary Ridge local trips that we operate during daylight hours, you also get the turntable demonstration on it, as well as one thing we're not doing tonight, which is a tour inside our restoration and repair shop. This gives you the opportunity to see a few of our steam locomotives up close. We do have 2 operational steam locomotives here at this museum. The 630 built in 1904 and the 4501 built in 1911. Both of these locomotives are authentic coal-fired steam locomotives. We run them on this train from March through early November, and you are able to ride behind them. You can also take rides in the cabs of these locomotives with the engineer and the fireman. Restrictions do apply. Make sure you have read those on our website or at the ticket window before purchasing your ticket to ride in the cab of the locomotive. Because there are age restrictions and you do have to have on long pants and closed-toed shoes to ride in the cab of the steam engine. Once again, we are now arriving at East Chattanooga. Please remain seated until myself or Mr. Shields let you know it is safe to exit the train. Station stop, East Chattanooga.